I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed at 38 years old. It really blindsided me, kind of came from nowhere. And yeah, I did have a family history, my grandmother on my mother's side, but my mom and all of her sisters and all of my female cousins on that side, nothing. So it was just, I'm the outlier. It skipped everybody else and it hit me. So I could have used that as an excuse, at that time. I was in a high stress job with Memphis City Schools. And I tell people all the time, you have to keep your head on a swivel because you just never knew, what was going to happen on any given day or what you were going to be, facing. So I was working still, going through treatment, working every day, stressed out every day. And I could have very well used it as an excuse.
Hey, Summer Owens, and I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. Today, I have the privilege of talking to my longtime friend, my personal event planner, and just an amazing woman, Staci Franklin. And Staci is the owner and the lead event planner of It's Your Day Weddings and Special Events. And she has an amazing story of success in spite of challenges. And I can't wait to get into her story. But just a little bit of background. Staci and I met in 2001, I guess.
20 years ago.
Wow. 2001, when I worked for the Memphis Grizzlies as a marketing manager, or when I started with the Memphis Grizzlies and became a marketing manager, and Staci was the director of, or I guess your manager at the time, both progressed, of community investments. And that's when Staci became my friend, my lunch buddy, and also soon after that, my soror. So super, super excited to be talking to Staci. Staci, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first, Summer, let me just say thank you so much for even considering me to be a part of one of your sessions. So I really do appreciate that. It's an honor to be here. And, you have just been so wonderful to watch and see you grow in what you're doing and how you're helping others, navigate through this thing called life that we do every day. And just to see how you have managed, this process just has been, so inspiring for me. So let me just say thank you for allowing me to take part in this. But as far as I'm concerned, as you said, I am the owner and lead event planner for It's Your Day Weddings and Special Events. It is a situation of where I assist my clients with celebrating their life-changing events. So whether it is a wedding, a milestone event such as an anniversary or a birthday, or I just recently added in this last year of the pandemic, travel to my portfolio of services. So romance travel, honeymoons and destination weddings, as well as group travel. So a lot of times the girlfriend getaways. So that pretty much in a nutshell is what I do with my business.
That's awesome, Staci. And I should go back a little bit further. So I talked about us meeting at the Memphis Grizzlies. And so you had a journey, though, to get to It's Your Day.
Yes.
Is what you're doing now as a full-time entrepreneur, full-time event planner. Tell us a little bit about your career path, where you went
Sure.
to that.
So before getting into this full-time, let me just start. I'm a graduate of Spelman College. I was an English major. Immediately after finishing there, I went on to pursue my master's degree at the other University of Texas at Austin, where I got my master's in journalism. When I finished there, I came to Memphis and started my corporate communications career with International Paper. I was in Memphis for about 8 months and then quickly started moving all across the country with the company for the next 6 years in that path. And then they brought me back to Memphis, and I was back in Memphis maybe a year and a half. And then that's when in 2001, I made that leap to the Memphis Grizzlies. So I had a wonderful, wonderful time there as the manager and later the director of community investment. And then stayed there for the first 6 seasons of the team being in Memphis, and then left and went to the former, now Memphis City Schools as the coordinator and later on the executive director of communications and marketing for the school district. And then once I left there, did a short stint with nonprofit work with the youth organization called Bridges. And then I made that leap to entrepreneurship. Now, mind you, since the year 2000, which is when I did my very first wedding, I was doing weddings and events as a sideline, all while I was still dealing with, a regular corporate 9-to-5 job. It wasn't until 2006 that I actually formalized it. And Summer, I remember us sitting either in my office or maybe it was your office at Memphis Grizzlies, and I was trying to figure out what was I going to name my business. And we were sitting there chatting, and I just kept saying, well, it's your day. It's your day. I want people to know that it's their special day. And it was like, ding, 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 ding. That's the name of the business. And so in 2006 is when I formalized it, got my business license, did my business bank account, all the things that you do, to formalize it. And it's your day ever since.
I remember that conversation, Staci, and just even going back to that, because yes, you were doing events because you ended up doing several of us Memphis Grizzlies folks' weddings. Put in mind, which was the first event that you did for me. I had a beautiful wedding, even though my marriage didn't last. It's one of my so whats. I had an amazing wedding, and you were always on point, and I always looked at you. Thinking back, like 20 years ago, I was 22. I was 22.
Oh, baby.
And of course, I thought I was good and grown. But yes, now I'm like, what did I know at 22? But you were my not only my coworker, my friend, but like a big sister and a role model that I looked up to because of that, all that professional experience you already had. And I saw how you handle, because you worked with the players a lot. And I saw how professional you were in doing that when some other people weren't as professional, or too starstruck and those kind of things. I watched you and I said, yes, that's how I want to be. I want to be, but I want to be like that. And I appreciated that about you. And I also saw, okay, this is how she can run an event. And so that was awesome. And I was glad that we were able to make that connection then. So, all right, let's get into the questions. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success System. And that's learning how to be successful in spite of your challenges. And so the formula or the system is learning first how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and finally learning how to calculate choices. And that equals So What Success. So Staci, I have had the privilege of knowing you for a long time. And so I know, a lot of the things that you've been through and a lot of things that you've overcome, but talk about some of the obstacles that you've overcome and just how you've been able to do that.
So, I would answer that. It's several different ways that I would answer that question. But one thing I would say, you hear people use the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. And I would think that probably sums up particularly my early career and even with school, even being from a small town in Middle Tennessee where not a lot of people look like me. but I had big dreams of what I wanted my life to be or what I imagined my life could be. And fortunately, I have parents at that time even that never told me I couldn't do anything because I was, this little brown girl from a small town in Tennessee. And just imagine, any and everything that you ever want to do, you can do it. But I don't think they prepared me for the knocks up against your head that come along, sometimes, because not everybody shares the dreams that you have. I was told in junior high school, I wasn't a good writer. Although even at that time, I knew that I wanted to do some form of journalism. I just didn't know quite what it was. But I was told, oh, you can't do that because you're not a good writer. But it was something that was, and it's still there today. But whenever you tell me that I can't do something, then I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Girl, yes, watch. Don't believe you, just watch.
Yeah, just watch. So then as I go back and, I was saying earlier, so it was that burning in me to prove this high school teacher wrong. So yeah, I went on to Spelman and I majored in English and got my degree. You're not a good writer. And this teacher also was the newspaper coordinator for our school newspaper. So yeah, I went on to UT Austin and got my master's degree in journalism. I proved you wrong. And then yes, I went on to a 20 plus career in corporate communications where I had to write and speak and do whatever every day. So I think it's that thing of just not knowing what you can't do may be an obstacle, and being naive to that is kind of how I would answer that in part. Just sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, and what to be aware of and how to navigate through that. So I would answer it in that way.
I like that, and even in when I speak to youth and college students, that's one of the points that I make is to be appreciative of the people in your life, including the doubters, including the people who doubt you. So I can relate to that. There are plenty of people who I couldn't after having a baby when I was 15, and so I was like, yeah, that put a lot of wind beneath my sail. Like, yeah, it pushed me. So I told in there. Okay, so the next part of the SOLA success system is about eliminating excuses. So we all have obstacles. We all have challenges. And you shared one, and I know you've had others. But what are some excuses that you've made throughout your life, or some excuses that you could have made that would have held you back or kept you from being the success story that you are today?
Well, one area dealing with my health, I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed at 38 years old. It really blindsided me, kind of came from nowhere. And yeah, I did have a family history, my grandmother on my mother's side, but my mom and all of her sisters and all of my female cousins on that side, nothing. So I'm the outlier. It skipped everybody else and it hit me. So I could have used that as an excuse, at that time. I was in a high stress job with Memphis City Schools. And I tell people all the time, you have to keep your head on a swivel because you just never knew, what was going to happen on any given day or what you were going to be, facing. So I was working still, going through treatment, working every day, stressed out every day. And I could have very well used that as an excuse to go hide, in the bed, stay in the bed and not get up and do whatever. But every day I felt motivated that I had to get up, I had to be busy, I had to work. And, I couldn't use that as an excuse. When the diagnosis came, and I digested everything, I quickly said that, I'm going to go through this and this will be the last time. I won't go through this again. And, God willing, and just praises to God that, I have been cancer free, over 12 years now. So, but yeah, that was a huge obstacle. And also it could have been a huge excuse, but I refused to let it be.
Well, I remember, of course, when you went through that, and how everybody felt, and watching you go through that, and I saw how strong you were throughout all of that, and what you did from that. And I love being able to turn obstacles into opportunities, and that's one of the things that you did, because from that you created a pink affair, and that was the yearly event that you did in October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is also your birthday month. And really, I guess it was in lieu of really your birthday celebration. It was a pink affair, which was a beautiful event that raised funds for breast cancer awareness. And I know you donated directly to an organization that provided equipment and services for women who were going through. And I thought, that was a beautiful thing. And I was grateful to be able to attend those events, and looking back on our pictures. But that's something that you did, in turning an obstacle into a beautiful opportunity that gave funds and awareness, and for women who deal with breast cancer, and then women like me who hopefully will never even have to deal with it. So that's beautiful. That is beautiful. So what Success System is about, calculating choices. And so one thing that you did, but that was a choice that you made, was to use your story, right? And to create a beautiful event. But what are some other calculated choices that you've made throughout your career, throughout your life, that have gotten you to where you are today?
I would say starting with where I chose to go to college. Again, being from a small town, Middle Tennessee, where the majority of people here went to UT Knox, Middle Tennessee State, University of Memphis. And here I am choosing to go to an HBCU in Atlanta, Georgia. And everybody was just like, what in the world are you thinking? What do you... Atlanta is going to chew you up and spit you out, basically, and you're going to end up back at home. I know that's what people thought, whether they said it or not, but I know that that's what a lot of people thought. So making that choice, even with my, going to college, with my education, that was a calculation. Spelling was always my first choice. It was always where I wanted to go, and nobody could change my mind about it. So that's one. Two would be probably deciding to leave international paper and going to the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, what some people may not know is that when I was in grad school, I had, again, the big dream that I wanted to work in some form of sports and entertainment PR. But at that time, there really weren't a lot of sports teams in the South. I really wanted to stay in the South, but there weren't any at that time. A lot of franchises had not expanded or what have you. The leagues had not expanded into the South on football or basketball side at the time that I came out. And so it was really like a dream put on the back burner, or a dream that probably would never even come true. So for the teams that were in the area, Atlanta and the Florida teams, I sent out all kind of letters, made all kind of cold calls, and got rejection after rejection after rejection, the thank you but no thank you letter. And so I just really kind of, put that to the side and said, okay, that's not going to happen for me. But when it was announced that the Memphis Grizzlies were coming to Memphis, it was like just something in me like, okay, this is it. This is your opportunity. Let's make it happen. And I just always believe God just puts things in motion that you could never even plan or prepare for. Because one of our former co-workers, we worked together at International Paper, and he had a sports background. And so I remember speaking to him and telling him of one of the positions, you need to apply. And he did, and he got it. And so then when he got there, I was like, you know what? You need to bring me. I need to get there because this is my dream.
Who are you talking about?
Kurt Claiborne. We worked next door. Our offices were next door to one another at International Paper. He got hired first as the media director. He wasn't going to apply. He was thinking long and I'm like, no, my dream is dependent upon you. So that's really how I looked at it. And so he applied, he got it. And, fortunately, when it came time for the community investment part of the hiring, he put in a good word with me, with Richard Cohey. You remember Richard? And I went in for the interview and I ended up getting the job. But I never in my mind could have planned it like that. I never could have planned it like that. But it happened. But making that choice to leave was huge for me because I had built up whatever tenure and career at International Paper. The money was great, the benefits and perks were great, but to leave all that behind, to go to a sports team that was new in the city, nothing had been proven. The money definitely, what anybody will tell you, sports on the admin side is not that great. But it was fulfilling a dream of mine. And I never want to leave this earth with any regrets. And so, I just felt like it was going to be that jumping off point for me for any and everything else that I wanted to do. But I had to have that experience. And I'm so glad that I did. So that absolutely was a calculated choice.
For sure. So Staci, and I know you got another one to share, and if you don't, I'll remind you what it is. But first, I have to just echo those sentiments. I just got done with a speaking engagement, a virtual one, where I talked about my Memphis Grizzlies, and it mimics yours. I had just graduated from college and had been rejected from a job. Well, first of all, I struggled to get interviews. And I couldn't believe it because I'd done well in college, even internships, and I was Miss University of Memphis. And I graduated magna cum laude, and I still couldn't get a job or couldn't get an interview. And I finally got an interview, and then I asked how long I had to get back to them because I wanted to confirm that was the job I wanted to take. And by the time I said yes, they told me no, that they were pursuing other candidates. But shortly after that, the Vancouver Grizzlies announced they had chosen Memphis and they were coming to Memphis. And I was like, kind of like you. I'm like, wait a minute, that would be so cool to work for the Memphis Grizzlies. And things worked out, and I did. I started my career with the Memphis Grizzlies. And had that not happened, I wouldn't even know you. I don't think that I would even know you and so many other people that I've met in the city of Memphis and the great opportunities that I've had. So yeah, I love your story because I didn't even know that, first of all.
Yeah.
And I understand how it feels. Well, okay, Staci, I know another big calculated choice that you had to make because it was just like mine. So you quit corporate. You quit corporate to be a full-time entrepreneur. And I know for me, that was a big leap, and that was super scary. And that's something that you did. So talk a little bit about that calculation.
So for me, it was, well, I'll be clear about this. When I left the nonprofit, I was actively looking for another job. I was. So I knew that I still wanted to do events, but I would have been fine to continue down that path of, it's my sideline, gig that I do when I have time, and still have the 9 to 5, got to definite paycheck and benefits and all of that. So I was very clear about that. But what I think hit me in the face, and I'll be very transparent, I was 45 at the time when this happened. And so what I was beginning to feel like, because I had gone on many interviews, I knew that the jobs that I was interviewing for, I was more than qualified. You know, I had more qualifications than some of the people that I interviewed with. So I was very clear about that. But they weren't looking for me. What I was selling, they weren't buying. And so it was a thing of where I had to make that choice of, okay, do I continue down this road of hitting my head against the wall, or do I go down the road of what I had been praying for a lot of times is, oh, I just want to work in my business full time. Because I would say that, you know, on those days at work when you're just, you know, frustrated or it's a bad day, and you just say, throw up your hands, oh, if I could just work in my business full time, you know, I wouldn't have to deal with this. Well, that's what was happening. And I think it was just time and time and time again trying to give me the signal that this is what you've been saying that you want to do. Here's your opportunity, you know, to do it. And so I just, you know, turned off everything as far as trying to get a job and just started focusing my attention on the business and building the infrastructure that I needed for the business. And then I didn't look back. In a nutshell.
And here you are, full-time event planner. And so since my wedding, you've done another event for me several times. And then that's the Love Yourself event that I created 6 years ago. I think 6 years
ago. I think so. Yeah.
I'm like, I know we're going into the 5th annual, but COVID was a crazy year, done it though for me 4 times as the event planner for 4 times, and that's the signature event for the So What Foundation, the nonprofit that I created, and you've done an amazing job with that, and I've been honored your support with the Love Yourself event, and to see you and your business and how you've been thriving as well. Like I've been really proud watching you in the weddings that you've done and the other events that you've done, and to see, and I'm just super proud when people take that step, whatever step that is. And for you, that was becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And I know how scary it is and how uncertain it is, but to see you thriving in it, it's been really, really beautiful to watch. So you have been successful, Staci. You've shared with us some of your obstacles, some of your challenges. You're a real person, so I know you got way more than you can share in this little short period of time, but you're a success story. What is your personal definition of success, though, Staci?
I would say my personal definition for success is to be able, from a professional standpoint, is to be able to get up every morning and do what I absolutely love to do. And that's not to say that there won't be days, you know, where I'm frustrated with, you know, some decisions or choices or a client that's, you know, just maybe a little bit too much, but that's okay too. But to be able to 95% of the time get up and do what I enjoy every day. And I tell people too that you spend too much time, the majority of your time, on a job or, you know, in whatever industry it is that you're in, not to enjoy what you do. You know, a lot of times you spend more time on your job than you do with your family, you know? So that's a success for me. I had no idea that 20 years ago that I would end up doing what I'm doing today. And to be able to do this and enjoy it and love it, and really, truly, if I didn't have bills to pay, I would do it for free. That absolutely is a success for me.
I love it.
The other part is just having beautiful family and friends like you who have been in my life, you know, for 20 years now, that have always been the greatest and biggest cheerleaders and supported me, and maybe sometimes not understood, choices, that you make. Sometimes your family is like, I can't believe you're not going back and getting a job.
You quit FedEx, Summer.
Right. So they don't necessarily understand, but yet and still they support. And so that to me is truly a blessing and definitely a success.
Well, Staci, you make it easy. You make it easy. You have always been super professional. That's when I think of you, I think of professional. But you're also super, super sweet and super kind. And so it's super easy to support you in whatever you're doing. So it has been an honor for me to be your friend, but also, again, somebody who's watching you and saying, okay, that I can learn, I need to be like that, and especially I think back to some specific contrasts when we were at the Memphis Grizzlies and how some people handle situations, stressful situations, and even, interactions with the players, watching how you did that. And it's like, you are somebody to model myself after in a lot of different situations. So it's been my privilege to watch you and to try to be like you just look. I love it. Okay, Staci. So here's my last question for you. You've been through a lot. You've experienced a lot. From college, you talked about, growing up in a small town and going off to college to another city, a big city, and then the journey you've had in your career. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be successful, however that looks for them, but they may be running into different obstacles or challenges? What general advice would you give?
I would say, if I had to note to my younger self, which I have not been very good with, and I'll just be transparent about that. But if I had some things to do over again, particularly in my professional career, is to do a better job of keeping up with my contacts and network of, colleagues and friends over the years. You never know how people are going to be able to help you or to mentor you or assist you as you go through certain situations. And I think for me, particularly in the event planning field, we have tunnel vision. We are so focused in on, let me get everything done for this event, get the event done, and then we move on to the next one. And I think sometimes I have led my life in that way, in a sense that I'm in a job, I work that job, I keep my head down, I do the best that I can, and then that next job opportunity comes on, and then you're headstrong into that. And then, but you don't sometimes make sure that you're keeping those connections with the people you were with in the previous one or two jobs before. I haven't been good at that, and I recognize that. And I would say to anyone else coming along, keep those connections and those lines of communication open, because you never know how it's going to be for them to maybe assist you and help you further along, down the way. So
I think that's great advice. And I think you probably do better than you think you do, but I still think that's great advice, because I'm just thinking about the fun thing you're doing for us right now and planning our OG reunion, original Grizzlies, and reconnecting all of us. I think that's awesome. But I definitely agree with that advice. And that's something I sort of pride myself in, though, is trying to maintain relationships.
You're great at that. You are absolutely awesome at that. And so I just wish, we all are where we are supposed to be. But sometimes I reflect back and I think if I had been a little bit better in making sure that I connect, because we made such great contacts and connections, particularly with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Mm-hmm.
Just the people that we were exposed to,
Right.
And just not managing those connections. I just wish that I would have done a better job. So.
I know, I get it. And I think it's great advice, and we can all do better at it. But social media makes it even easier, right? Which we started as Grizzlies, that one really, it was just Leslie really who knew anything about social media, right?
Yes.
All the rest was like, but how the world is today, that makes it a whole lot easier. But even think about your advice and your situation, we can always go back and rebuild those relationships and those connections. But I think that is great advice to just keep it as you go. Well, Staci, thank you so much for sharing just a little bit of your life and a little bit of your journey, and offering encouragement to all the people who are going to watch this, because you're a survivor, you're a friend, you're a mentor, you're an entrepreneur, you're so many great things. And I'm just really glad and grateful that you're a part of my world.
Thank you, Summer. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. So thank you.
My pleasure.